Hello and welcome to a self-reliant episode of The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. And here's your host, Alan Mosley.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of The Gold Standard. I am your host, Alan Mosley, and you can follow us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter is at Alan M. Mosley, but you don't have to do any of that. You can just go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com. There's a donation button that you can find on that website, by the way, where it actually links to our PayPal account. And you go in there and you type 999.999.99, and then you click send. And right. I presume that you, A, have to have the money, and B, you have to put in your card information. Is that right?
I don't know if they make cards that big, man.
What's that one? The
plum card?
The black Amex, you know what I'm talking about?
That one. Yeah, that one's got like no limit. That's
Blake's got a black Amex, you guys.
It's in black and blue.
But also, you can join us by becoming a subscriber of our Patreon, which is patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley. You know, I feel like we should start every episode with begging for support because we don't have enough, not even anywhere near enough.
Yeah, we need more.
I have an announcement to that effect at the end of the episode, but we're going to wait till we get there.
Okay.
But I want to highlight a few of our friends before we get started. So I'm going to start off with The Other 3%, which you can find on Facebook at The Other 3%. We've got our little post from them today, which is, after years of coaxing PTSD victims out into the open in order to get them help, reassuring them that there will be no stigma, politicians come up with the red flag law. This will surely apply to and disproportionately impact people who disclose their PTSD symptoms, driving these same people back into the shadows for the very valid fear of losing their weapons and ability to protect themselves and their family. Way to go, Washington.
Oh, what else do you expect?
Well, you know, we didn't talk about, and we're not going to talk about, we're not talking about the shootings today. And we're not going to talk about the shootings.
Good.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, there's enough people talking about that. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, we didn't cover the Democratic debates really, and we're not going to because that's just a waste. And we're not going to talk about the shootings. We're not going to talk about the shooters. We're not going to talk about whether or not they were, you know, the left can claim them or the right can claim them and who's responsible. You know, the only people that are responsible is the shooter.
That's right.
That's the only people responsible.
That's right.
Period. Mm-hmm. But of course, as this little blurb references, Trump has come out in support of red flag laws and more diagnosing of mental health issues. And this is actually something that our friend Suzanne Sherman had touched on a little bit. And I had touched on her program, the Wasatch Report, in the last couple of weeks, where we were discussing that, you know, in China, they have the social credit system, where basically you as an individual have a credit score based on things about you, you know, your wellness, your health, your employment, your income, the things you're associated with. And of course, people like to always say, well, that could never happen here. That could never happen here, of course. No, of course not.
It probably already is.
Well, I mean, what is a red flag law? So a red flag law is just basically saying, where it gets its name is that, well, if there's red flags associated with someone, if there's a history of mental illness, if there's a history of violence or depression or whatever, then that would be a red flag. And those are the types of people that would not be given, say, permits to carry a firearm.
Right.
Well, of course, as we like to say around here, all gun laws are infringements. So there's all gun laws are infringements, and we really mean that. If you and by the way, I'm not getting into a Constitution talk. That's not what this is about. I don't care two craps about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is irrelevant to me. Now, if I was going to have a constitutional talk, I would say that the Second Amendment doesn't give you any rights. The Constitution doesn't give you any rights.
Right.
Government doesn't give you rights.
No, it just takes them away.
Yeah, the only thing government can possibly do is take your rights away. No, you have a natural right to self-defense. I was about to say self-offense. I mean, if you want to offend yourself, I guess
I do it all the time.
You know, there you go. But you have a natural right to self-defense, and you have a right to be armed to protect yourself and your loved ones.
That's right.
And you have a right to be armed with anything that anyone else can be armed with. That includes the government, that includes police, that includes the military. So if you believe in natural rights and you believe in any of the slather that I just put out there, then you would know that a red flag law, just like any gun law, is an infringement on your natural rights and therefore is immoral and unjust. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Status Quo. You can find them at their website, which is thestatusquo.net. Their most recent blog post is a brief rant on state education. I don't know how it can possibly be brief. There's so much to go into right there. And their most recent episode was episode 33, Kamala Harris, Al-Qaeda Apologist. Now, I don't really want to get into the debates, but have you seen all this stuff about when Tulsi Gabbard just absolutely skewered Kamala Harris in their last debate?
I've seen a lot of reports of other people's secondhand accounts of it, but once again, I have not personally seen it myself.
Well, so basically just what it boils down to is Kamala Harris she is just a picture of the establishment. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the leftists in general, is that they always talk about, caring for the regular people, being a proponent of the common man and
right.
being anti-establishment. Kamala Harris is a picture of the establishment.
Yeah.
She was a prosecutor. She's a cop.
Yeah,
she was a cop. She was a prosecutor.
Yeah.
She threw thousands of people into jail for victimless crimes, talking about drug offenses, of course.
Right.
And so basically Tulsi Gabbard just called her out on that. She did. I mean, there's basically nothing. There's no call out to it other than just stating fact that you were a cop, you were a prosecutor, you threw a bunch of people in jail for victimless crimes. A lot of those people being people of color. So I just won't sit here and listen to you identify with those groups and act like you're their champion. I just simply won't. I don't have it as one of our meme of the week, but I did see a really good one where somebody said, Kamala Harris really has the color vote locked up. And I was like, ooh.
Oh, God.
I know, I like that one.
Oh, wow. You need to find that one of these days.
And finally, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Liberty Memes. I need to get whatever their most recent fundraising expose is so that I can highlight it on the next episode. But until we get that, I just have a meme that they had on here, which is, if we make guns illegal, no one will ever get shot. That's how we stopped everyone from doing drugs.
Right.
We joke and kid around about things like that, but the reality of it is that is a good analogy. And I always like to use the analogy of the prisons, that we know for a fact that there are drugs and weapons in prisons. Yeah. I mean, they find shanks and modified little pokers, if you will. Of course, we know there's drugs. There's absolutely drugs in prisons.
Most definitely.
And those are, in theory, the most secure places you can think of. I mean, they literally have built the walls and put up the gates and put up the fences. Everyone is living in a solitary little cell with this scheduled little routine. And yet they still get weapons, yet they still get drugs.
Yep.
If you can't keep drugs and weapons out of a jail, how are you going to keep anything out of a country, out of a state, out of a city, out of a town?
Exactly.
You're not going to.
Nope.
That's exactly right. So all the gun control stuff is nonsense, and we may do another gun episode in the future. That's not actually what today's episode is primarily going to be about, but I know that's big in the news right now. And I'll tell you one quick thing, too, before we go to our first commercial break. If anyone's asking, well, that's kind of the big story in the news, Alan. Why is that not what you're covering? Isn't that kind of the shtick? You take the big thing in the news and you cover it? I'll tell you the main reason why we're not doing that this week, other than the fact that I have something else prepared. It's just the fact that with some stories like that, whether it's a shooting, whether it's, arguing over gun control, we could do an episode about that every week, couldn't we? Sure. I mean, it always seems like it's something. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that to sound, callous. I don't mean for that to sound like I don't have sympathy for the people who are victims of violent crime. It's just I always, and this is I'm not trying to be a collectivist when I say, libertarians do this or libertarians do that. I should just say a lot of people, sometimes when they feel like their beliefs are attacked, they then lose sympathy for people who are hurting. And I don't like that, and I don't want to come off like that either. I don't want people to think that, well, you rush to defend gun rights, you don't care about the victims. That's not true. I do care about the victims. But the argument I would make is that I actually care about the victims a lot more than you do, Mr. Mr. Leftist, Mr. Gun Control Advocate.
Right.
I care so much about those victims that I wish they were armed. I wish they could have defended themselves. I wish somebody nearby could have stopped a shooter before he was able to rampage as far as he did. We see so often situations like that end when a bystander runs into play. And sometimes they're not armed at all, and there's more death because of it. And, you know, what are all the old memes of, you know, when seconds count and the police are minutes away, or you know, if we didn't have the police, who could we call to show up 45 minutes later and file a report and things like that? I mean, you know, we like to kid, but we kid because there's truth to those things. That no one should have a right or an authority, and no one should be more better equipped to protect you and your loved ones than you and your loved ones. And so, for that reason, I actually feel like I'm way more sympathetic, and I'm actually offering real-life means in which to stop these types of evils stop them from being as bad as they could be, because you can't stop them. There's no such thing. Everyone who says, well, if we just pass one more law, if we just had one more regulation, if we just put up one more sign with a little gun with a no sign over it, then that would mean evil things wouldn't happen. People, ladies and gentlemen, there's evil people in this world. And there's always going to be evil people in this world. And so since we can't stop that from just being a cold reality, we just have to be as prepared as we can be. And I certainly balk at the state who steals and murders more than any organization that has ever existed and known to man. I certainly balk at them writing the rules and determining how we're going to combat these types of issues. So with that, wow, this episode got really dark.
It did.
I know we need
You're preaching, man.
We need to have a fun episode.
Yes,
well, anyway, we'll be right back after this break. Hey, did you see the playoff games last weekend?
Oh, you're into the sports ball game.
Sports Ball with Mike Meharry and Alan Mosley. SportsBallPodcast.com.
Sports ball is not a libertarian sports show. It's a sports show done by a couple of libertarians.
For when you need your bread in circuses.
Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com. You know, we still need like music to go in and out of the commercial breaks with.
I'm working on it.
Well, because and the only reason is that I feel like someone might be watching and like they can't tell when the commercial stops and when we begin.
You mean like you?
Yeah, like me. Well, because you're sitting there for a second and there's just that moment where you're like, is this a commercial or is Alan talking again?
I don't know. That transition was absolutely smooth, man.
Yeah, but you gotta have, you know, the logo's gotta come up and there's gotta be like you know, and I could be like, hey, welcome back, everybody, you know.
I'll get you some fake applause too.
Well, and you know what else we need too is you got to have the other, like you have to have the other camera set up over there so that you have like the wide angle shot of we're going to commercial break, so this is the moment where everybody's hanging out and talk, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we could just like use fake footage. We could like buy on the internet. And
you know what the problem is though is that then I'd have to wear pants.
I'm not gonna pull the camera out. People don't need to see that.
Yeah. Anyway. What we wanted to talk about today, I know there was a story that has been making the rounds of the and we have the body cam footage, and we're not going to show it on the show, by the way. We're not going there.
Okay.
Of the police officer, it was in Arlington, Texas. A police officer was going out to do a welfare check on this woman, and a dog, I guess it was her dog, came out from the bushes or the hedges or whatever, and the cop, and again, I don't really feel like clicking the link to try to show it.
Yeah.
Most everybody's seen it. If you haven't by now, you can go find it pretty easily. The dog kind of comes out of the bushes, and frankly, to be totally honest, the dog is not threatening. For one, it's not a big dog. Like, we're not talking about a German Shepherd here.
Yeah.
It's some medium-sized
like a weenie
mutt.
dog or something.
And his immediate reaction as soon as that dog comes out, I know we joke a lot about cops shooting dogs, but I swear to God, his immediate reaction is to draw. I mean, just the moment any other piece of wildlife presents itself, he immediately draws his gun. So, and then he tries his best to shoot it. Like, don't you, like all joking aside really quick here, like, You've walked down the sidewalk or you've been on a walk through your neighborhood and seen a dog, right? Yeah. Was your immediate reaction, oh my God, I gotta shoot it, we're all gonna die?
No, my reaction most of the time, pet it and see if it's friendly.
Well, I mean, even if you didn't think a dog was friendly, 99 times out of 100, what you do is you just go live your life. You just keep walking. You don't even
pay attention to it. It's like,
you don't even pay any attention to it. Yeah. It blows my mind that any human being's immediate reaction would be draw a firearm and wildly start shooting at it. So, but of course, the reason why this makes the news, because goodness knows the cops shoot a lot of dogs, is that he missed the dog and hit the woman who he was going to do the welfare check on, and she died. He killed this woman.
Goodness gracious.
He murdered this woman. Now I'm going to use the word murder here, and I know some people might balk and say, well, it was an accident. It's a terrible accident, but it was an accident. I don't give these pigs the benefit of the doubt, Frank. I just don't, and I never will. I won't give the enforcement wing of the state the benefit of the doubt under any circumstances. They don't deserve it. They don't get it. He murdered this woman. He murdered this woman. Like, just say it what it is. Now, I don't really want to get too much into the particulars of this particular story. I know it's really been big in the news the last several days. But the one thing I do want to point out is that he had been dispatched to perform a routine welfare check on this woman. Maggie Brooks. Yeah. Reportedly, she was homeless and a regular at a nearby shopping center. And then, of course, then there's the fatal shooting.
Yeah.
Now, that's kind of our segue into, I've got a few other stories here. Now, some people might not be aware of this, but, say for instance, you, Blake, I felt like you were in trouble. Like, not like I literally thought you were being robbed or anything, or that the studio was on fire. I thought that you weren't well. Like, maybe I thought you were sick and you weren't going to the hospital, and I was afraid that you seriously were in danger, or maybe I thought you were depressed.
Yeah.
And I was worried that you would hurt yourself.
Okay.
The one thing you should never do, ladies and gentlemen, don't do this. Do not call the police. And that story is one reason why, and I've got a few more for you. Here's the next one. The police call was supposed to be a wellness check on a friend. How did Travis Jordan end up dead? Now, this is from November of last year. Travis Jordan, 36, he'd been living with a friend and co-worker, Paul Johnson, and his wife in their Minneapolis home. On Friday, Johnson was concerned about his friend Jordan and called the police. Now, this is a situation where Jordan had had some suicidal thoughts. They knew that he had depression. They knew that he had anxiety. And it's also worthy of mention here in the report. He was not being, quote unquote, professionally medicated for these things. Now, maybe he didn't have insurance. Maybe he just didn't want to take a handful of pills that some quack gave him. But, of course, he was medicating himself. How? With alcohol, or God knows what else. But they say alcohol in the... And you know what? He's certainly not alone. I mean, millions of people do this. But the point being is that they were afraid that he was dealing with depression. And out of kindness in their heart, out of not wanting to see their friend hurt himself, they called the police. And the police came to do a wellness check. What happens next? The police arrive, shots are fired, and what was supposed to be a welfare check on a man whom his friend claims had been struggling with depression ended with another black man dead. So the friend says, why are tasers not pulled out? Why is that not what's in their hand?
Yeah.
Why is it the lethal form of de-escalating the situation and ending it in their hands and not the other way around that could have been done? Now, they're claiming, that, of course, they have body cameras. The body cameras are on. They have audio and video of the shooting. But they're very sparse on the details. And there's not much else to the story past that. But hold on. There's many of these examples. We're going to just do a couple more. Now, this was one that I don't remember if we talked about this on the show or not, but it was pretty big in the news. Don't shoot, I'm disabled. This was October of last year.
Okay.
So in Milwaukee, 22-year-old Adam Trammell, he was a special needs young man. So mentally disabled individual. He's at home. He's taking a shower. He's been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and his neighbors believed that he was having some sort of a breakdown. Maybe they heard some sort of noise. Maybe they heard some screaming. I don't know. So what did the neighbor do, Blake?
Call the police.
Neighbor called 911. So the neighbor claimed that she could see through the doorway or through a window that it looked like Adam was having some sort of episode. So she calls the police. She also thought that Adam's name was Brandon. So I don't know how good of a neighbor she could possibly be that she thought his name was Brandon, but this comes up in the story later. So I guess Adam's parents were not in the home. They were at work or wherever, and Adam was in the shower. Well, the police officers break into the home. So, I mean, because let's be clear. I don't care if they were called, and I don't care if they're, quote unquote, doing a wellness check. This is private property, and they entered. So they broke into the house. Yep. They find him naked and wet in the shower, and they start screaming at him, barking at him commands, as cops are wont to do. Now, remember, he's mentally disabled. He's in the shower. He's naked. And they're screaming at him the name Brandon. So obviously he's confused.
Yeah.
They proceed to taser him no less than 15 times, and he dies later.
Yep.
So there is footage of it. The parents, unfortunately, had seen footage of it. And this is another instance of this situation going down after a quote-unquote welfare or wellness check. Now, guess what, Blake? What? We got one close to home.
Oh, wow.
This is from the Nashville Tennessean. Nancy Stevens with the Nashville Tennessean. Fairview police officers won't face charges in fatal shooting during welfare check. Chase Sullivan, 36 of Fairview, died as a result of gunshots fired by two police responding to a welfare check. Now, in this particular instance, once again, police were called because somebody wanted to have a welfare or wellness check performed on Chase Sullivan. So, and again, the police officers who are supposedly on a welfare check break in to Chase's house, and Chase is holding a knife. They claim that they screamed at Chase to drop the knife, and that when he didn't do it, they opened fire.
What if he was making a sandwich?
I mean, who knows, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Who knows? But even then, I know that there's going to be some cop sucker out there who's going to say, well, they told him to drop the knife. He didn't do it. Well, first of all, you're believing their account. And again, you'll remember from the beginning of the show, I do not give the enforcement wing of the state the benefit of the doubt under any circumstances.
Why are they armed when they go on a wellness check?
Very true. That's an excellent question. Why? And that was in one of the previous articles. Why is the very first reaction to draw their firearms?
Yeah.
Why is the reaction to a medium-sized dog barking in a bush to immediately draw a firearm? And of course, in his case, just to start firing away. Mm-hmm. Why are they? And again, I mean, let's be clear. I don't care if you call it a wellness check. That's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
You broke into the house. They broke into this man's private property. I don't care if he was holding a frickin' tactical McNuke.
Yeah.
They broke into his house and started barking orders at him on his property.
Right.
So he doesn't have to listen to anything they say.
That's right.
They enforced his consent, and they enforced his will with violence. They killed him. They murdered him. And again, we're gonna call it what it is. They murdered him. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. And again, it was also during a welfare check. And the reason why I brought up all those articles, and that kind of brings us to the end of this segment today, is if you have a friend or a loved one who's going through a hard time that maybe has some handicap or another. Maybe you're worried that they're dealing with depression or anxiety, especially if you're worried about that they might harm themselves. Then if you love that person and you care about their well-being, then absolutely, I would love it if you went to that person and you asked them, "Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Do you need to talk?" The last thing I would want, if I thought that you were in that dark of a place, I would beg and plead with you, don't hurt yourself. That's a very permanent solution to a temporary problem. That's the last thing I would want you to do.
Right.
Now, to be clear, from a libertarian perspective, I would say, but if your mind was made up, I can't force you not to, because
right.
I don't have a greater owning or authority over your life and happiness than you do.
Right.
But that being said, the absolute worst thing you can do in this situation is call the police.
Right.
The worst thing you can do in basically any situation is call the police. I believe that more than anything. I'd seen people make the meme before that, there's the rap song F the police. You don't hear people saying F the EMTs. You don't hear people saying F the firefighters. Why is that? Because by and large, they don't harm.
Yeah.
They're not aggressive.
Well, it does seem like it would make more sense to call the fire department to do a wellness check than an armed officer, because the fire department is not going to go and bum rush with guns.
Possibly, but I wouldn't call any governmental authority for a wellness check under any circumstance, because they're going to escalate. Because that's what these people do. They escalate. That's the only thing. The only thing the state knows, and make no mistake about it, the police are the enforcement wing of the state. The only thing the state knows is violence and coercion. That, I'm pretty sure people whose only options are violence and coercion and escalation to lethal force, those are the last people you want doing wellness checks.
Yeah.
So,
True.
as we're always talking about, independence, responsibility, taking care of yourself, taking care of your loved ones, this falls under that banner. We don't need the state to do that for us. And just like with the post office or the DMV or anything else, they just screw up everything they do. So for the love of God, people, do not call the police. We'll be right back after this break.
Have you ever been talking politics with a friend and told, if you don't like it here, you should just move to Somalia?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, from the sandy beaches of Mogadishu, Sherry and I bring you Postcards from Somalia, one of the newer products of Little L Productions, where we take on all of the fallacies of the people who say, if you don't like it, you can just get out. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com. We've got some exciting news, but we've also got some trying news coming up in the near future. We're going to start having the Gold Standard syndicated on some other networks and other platforms.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. That's really cool.
That's awesome.
I'm honored that anybody would would look at our program and say, you know what, we need that program on our network. Far be it from me to judge.
No.
But Cerberus Radio Network, that out west, Suzanne Sherman's out there in Utah. She does the Wasatch Report. I think they've got a bunch of programs. They got The Spy Who Loves Liberty. I'm drawing a blank at the moment. They got several awesome programs. They're going to be adding the Gold Standard to their network.
That's exciting.
So we're really happy to syndicate the program. Got a couple of other really big announcements, but we're going to wait on those until all the details are ironed out.
All right.
I do want to do a really quick rant though before we close. We're gonna start trying some new things on social media to try to get more reach, to try to get more clicks, more views, try to drum up more support for the program. And basically the main reason is that if there was ever anyone who was shadow banned on Facebook, it's the Gold Standard with Alan Mosley.
Oh yeah.
I don't even remember if I had mentioned this on the program a week or two ago. But we recently, I can show you our analytics. Maybe one day I'll take a screenshot of it just so I make sure there's nothing like sensitive information in there, and I'll share the screenshot with people. It's amazing how you can see a post that got a lot of traffic because a lot of our very dear friends helped to share and propagate that show, versus a lot of our posts, sometimes friendly reminders, sometimes memes, sometimes we're sharing content from some of our friends because we want to promote them, and we're getting like single to low double-digit shares, or in reach and clicks, and that's just ridiculous. I mean, on a page of thousands, we had one announcement that was just letting people know, hey, tonight at 8 is the next episode debuting. It got a reach of 6 by the time the episode aired. 6 out of thousands, 6.
Yeah.
So I think we're just going to delete the gold standard page.
Maybe.
I think we are. I think we're going to just start running the episodes through Alan Mosley, and we're just going to create a new page and set it up with new admins and start over.
That might make sense.
You can't beat it. You can't beat and I don't know, by the way, this is really annoying me, this whole flickering thing. That's been annoying me the whole show, but I'm trying to be freaking professional here. We got to really step up our game, Blake.
We're working on it.
I know we're working on it. You know, what it is I'm just looking for somewhere to place the blame.
Oh, blame me, man.
The reason why we don't have like 100,000 downloads a week and we're making thousands of dollars is because of this flickering TV.
It's that flickering.
That's what it
TV.
is. That's what it must be.
It's got to be the TV.
It's what it must be. I actually had one more little article to show, but I'm not going to do that because it's one of those like more outrage type pieces, and we're not doing outrage anymore. We're really not. I really mean that, by the way. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf of there's so much awesome stuff to talk about. There really is. We believe in some what I genuinely believe are very great ideas.
Yeah.
And of course I love history. There's all sorts of awesome historical topics. There's lots of great people. Yeah. There's lots of great people doing great things.
Yeah.
And even if we're talking about something that's more somber, like today's topic of wellness checks, and police brutality, what it really circles around to is I'm trying to make a point of, well, so this is how I want people to live. This is how I want people to go about things. This is how I want people to detach themselves from the state. I want people to take care of themselves. So even if we talk about something that is outrageous in nature, I still want the premise to be, so let's do better. So I actually had one more article. People will know it. It's the story that's out there of the dude who literally attacked a kid because he wouldn't take off his hat during the national anthem.
Oh yeah.
We're not going to talk about that. In fact, if anything, my take on that, I'm sure other people have done this. My take on that is where was everybody else? Like, if you saw, and not just your kid, but if you saw a grown man like pick up a kid and slam him head first on the ground because he wouldn't take his hat off, wouldn't you step in?
Well,
like, wouldn't you be like, you attacked a child? I don't care what happened.
Yeah.
I don't care what the reason was. You head slammed a child. How the rest of the crowd didn't beat this man from within an inch of his life, I don't know. They're all cowards too.
Yeah.
That's. You know what? That's how the mass shootings happen. The mass shootings happen because everyone's been A, disarmed, and B, they're like, ooh, I got to go run for the hills. If you people weren't cowards, the shooter wouldn't get off 60 rounds or whatever. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of The Gold Standard. We're a proud product of Little L Productions, and you can find us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter is @AlanMMosley, but you don't have to do any of that, because you can just go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com, and we will see you next week.